You are listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. Thank you for downloading and subscribing. Coming to you virtually live from high atop the historic Raleigh building in beautiful downtown Raleigh. The NCF&B takes the listener behind the scenes to tell the stories of the people that contribute to the creation of the food and beverage community of North Carolina. And now, the misfits in the dish pit, the faces of the front. They are Max Trujillo and Matthew Weiss.
Hello, and thank you for listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. I am your co-host, Max Trujillo.
And I'm your co-host, Matthew Weiss, and we are recapping Bubbles and Brisket, the event of the summer.
Yeah, it was the kickoff, but it got a little wild. The weather was not completely participating with us. The audio wasn't stellar, so we couldn't really do a podcast live as much as we'd like. There's a couple of clips I might be able to interweave into this whole show. But instead, we got a few people on the old Zoom on the blower so we could all chat. Let's start off with the musicians that kicked off the whole thing.
Baby, when you made me smile, when I really looked into your eyes, well, it had been a while. You kind of took me by surprise. You're shining a light, baby, shining a light on me, shining a light in my soul. And the way you shine, it feels so good, it makes me laugh. You're showing me that I don't have to be alone. Yeah.
Hello, Mr. Tom Anderson. How are you?
I'm wonderful, thank you. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah. I mean, I just wanted to say first off that I enjoyed every minute of this thing. I mean, I thought it was an amazing event. The food was great. I would have gone there just for the brisket. I would have gone there just for the bubbly. And I would have gone there just to play music and to listen to George and see you guys. But I got all those things at once. So
Wow, Tom. That's like a commercial over here. It's awesome.
I was impressed. I mean, it came together great. I had some friends come down there and they loved it too. So
We appreciated you being on stage. You sounded amazing. You've played for us one time before at the kitchen, and it was awesome at Christmas time, and that was killer. You played so much, and it was cool. We could all hear you. This time, man, like your tones sound great, and you got the benefit of having fairly decent weather. On the other hand, Mr. George Hage, you're on the call. You finished the whole event, but you didn't really get started until about 5 o'clock, which was the apex of the most torrential downpouring of rain. You want to tell the listeners a little bit about that walk up to the stage and the setup?
Yeah, this is the joy of outdoor gigs in outdoor events. There's always something that's going to happen, whether it's too hot, it's raining, it's monsooning, which I feel was more the case around 4 o'clock through 5 o'clock, probably right before I played. But
Oh man,
yeah, luckily I was able to load in before the rain started and see a lot of smiling, very happy faces and probably full bellies. And then shortly after that, as we were setting up, as the gear was coming out, was when the rain started to come down.
Sending well wishes, but the wells run dry. We all pray for rain. Never see clearly if it's eye for an eye. Stuck it out for a change. They're all saying this is how it has to be. Road, just live there, die. Never stop moving, 'cause it's time for a change.
But still had a blast, man.
but we were able to still set you up, and you risked life and limb. You did not get electrocuted, so that's one
That's a
good
plus.
thing.
I want to ask George and Thomas, does an event like this, or the mood or the vibe, you obviously come with an idea of what you're going to play, but does it get adjusted based on the weather, the vibes that people are feeling? Like, do you actually then ad lib and throw in a different song or change up the set?
I'll start. For one thing, like, so you get there, and like you were saying, like, I felt like the PA was a little underpowered and distorting the vocals, and I decided I was gonna overdrive that thing and sing. I was gonna sing, I wasn't gonna try to play some quiet songs. I was gonna try and project so people could hear it. Sing songs that might lend themselves better to a distorted vocal. I
know John Denver covers,
right?
In your set.
Right, and I definitely played more up tempo, rock and stuff, and I love that stuff anyway. So it's great.
What about you, George?
I'm just happy to be outside and around people.
Right? Was this the first time you'd played live before the pandemic?
I did one on-site event out of town, but it was a live stream. So there was only 3 of us there. And then we did, Jack the Radio did a parking lot show where people were in their cars during the event. So this was the first one where like there's actually people, 6 feet,
like
10 feet.
The old school way, the traditional sense.
Yeah, more traditional hangout. And that is one of the bright sides, I think, of food and food events, as it's brings people together in that way.
Heck yeah. And you've got a bunch of shows coming up too, from what I saw. So you're gigging now.
We're trying, man. Yeah, we're slowly getting back out there. Tom and I were actually talking about that. It's like been a very weird time that I feel like, 4 to 6 weeks ago, festival events were still getting pushed out to the fall or pushed out to 2022. And then I think Bonnaroo was the first big one I saw that announced like it's happening in July. And it was like, like
we can do this.
Things are happening now.
Yeah.
So we got to get on it.
Let's move on and let's talk a little bit about food, since we were trying to interview some of the pit masters and chefs on the far side of the stage, and that just was not happening with the way the weather was going at that particular time. And so on that particular end, Mr. Kyle Sutton, you were over there and you were doing kind of double duty and going nuts. Care to explain your setup? I know you were right there on the edge, which might have been the hot zone for the hurricane. But care to weigh in?
Yeah, we had a few things going on. So my wife and I own Bestow Baked Goods out in Holly Springs, and so we were there both as kind of the dessert sponsor, but then barbecue is my passion. So I pulled off like a brisket mac, right? So just like a very traditional like Texas style brisket, smoked for like 12, 14 hours over a mix of like white oak and hickory. And then on top, it was basically on top of like a very southern like baked mac and cheese, like a custard-based mac and cheese using like a Vermont 3-year cheddar. Things were so manic because, two reasons. One, I was supposed to have a teammate there to kind of assist, but we had a staffing issue at the bakery, so I'm flying solo. And then because I love punishment, I said, hey, let's like play all of the brisket mac like at the very last moment. So we're gonna chop this stuff almost to order. Phenomenal theater. It made a lot of sense. Brisket dries out. Like it was the right thing to do, but you needed more bodies, but somehow we made it work. So it was, it was a day.
Yeah. What was that video about you chopping? It almost seemed like, I don't chop, but then you were chopping.
Oh yeah. Like, like a chop brisket thing. It's not totally Central Texas. It's more like an East Texas thing. So I think the video came from, it was some back and forth Max and I were having. And we're saying, like, in a lot of ways, man, it's almost sacrilege, right? We're taking this Texas brisket, we're chopping it like a Carolina whole hog, and then we're throwing it on mac and cheese and hitting it with, a sauce that's kind of a blend of styles. So, as much as I hate this concept of like, fusion, I would actually argue that, what we had on Saturday is indicative of our region, which is very much kind of a hodgepodge of things, right? You've got, vinegar in your sauce. You got the technique that is very Eastern North Carolina. You got the baked mac, which is, extremely, not just Southern, right, but like American, right? Like mac and cheese, James Hemings, Thomas Jefferson's enslaved chef brought it back from France. Like it's super freaking American. And, we're like, nobody in the area is from here, right? So you're seeing kind of this amalgamation of like Texas and North Carolina, and it's coming together and it works, man. So yeah, it was very intentional.
That's maybe you were like creating your own East North Carolina brisket by doing the kind of, the blend,
the chop and the vinegar sauce. Yeah, I didn't even think about that, to be honest with you. That obviously whole hog, pork is North Carolina barbecue, but Texas barbecue is more brisket, and that's what. And it literally just occurred to me now. Maybe this is my naivety, but about you saying that. And James said it, and Mark Russell obviously said it. But when Mark Russell said it, I said, well, they do Texas-style barbecue anyway. That's kind of their thing. Brisket is really a Texas barbecue thing at its heart.
Yeah.
That's kind of the beautiful thing that happened in 2020 was this, it was the year of barbecue, or at least it was supposed to be before the pandemic shut things down. But that year of barbecue was kind of called because we had a lot of new people making barbecue in North Carolina, and it wasn't like a resurgence. It was a little bit of old, but it was mainly new. And what these new guys were doing was stepping outside of just pork, and they're doing brisket, and they're doing wings, and they're doing, whatever is kind of like without rules. They're just like, we're just going to make barbecue. Who cares? And that's what's been really fun. So Kyle chopping his brisket like East North Carolina chopped barbecue. It just kind of sounds right. And then, by the way, you threw it over like really gooey, like indulgent mac and cheese. So yeah, and then putting the sauce on top. Who wouldn't want that? By the way, thank you, Kyle. You gave me the bottle of your sauce. You're like, you want to go home with this? I'm like, yes, please, definitely. And then I proceeded to leave it in the car because I forgot that it was in there. And then I came out and it was 112 degrees inside my car over, the morning. So it didn't make it into the refrigerator, but thank you.
And because we bootstrapped this, you only had like 133 other things in your car to bring in. So
it literally was the last of 1,000 things.
Yeah. How could you have forgotten? But anyway, fusion though, not only did we stretch the parameters of our barbecue understanding, but Anthony from V Pizza, the host site, you put brisket on a pizza with pimento cheese.
Yeah, man. Yes, sir. We were excited to be a part of it. We were happy that you guys have reached out to us to try to, to use the space. So I reached out, our kitchen manager, Matt, me and him, we came up with a pretty cool pizza just to kind of throw a hat into the ring. I've never really cooked brisket before. So there was a lot of YouTube and trying to figure out how to do it in our oven. And yeah, we're pretty happy with it. We think it was a cool little piece of it. So we're happy we got to be involved.
I'll tell you, man, being that it was a festival or a party to get out, there was something cool about the tray passed hors d'oeuvres of pizza. And it's so I know it sounds very anti-COVID it doesn't sound like the thing that we were wanting to do 6 months ago, but walking around, sharing food and just kind of chatting with people as it happens is really an amazing thing. And it just felt more sophisticated seeing that pizza getting passed around and everyone's chatting and eating it. And you offered a different depth of flavor for the whole day. So that was really cool.
And sorry to those people that were on the entrance side, because a lot of them, the pizza didn't even make it there.
No. The GM and me heard that, and so I went over inside their kitchen and asked, hey, next time the pizzas come out, can you go out your other side door? And they're like, oh, yeah. So I worked it out.
Bingo.
Right. Except by that time, the people on the other side saw the server walking that way, and they're like, oh, there's that pizza. Let's go that way.
So we have Stephen Such and Terrence Caulfield on the show. These are guys that if you're avid listeners to the show, you'd know that they've been the only two that have ever taken over the controls of our microphones ever.
That's not true.
Completely? Completely?
We had...
Oh, we did the all-female show as well. That's right. To kick off last 2019. All right. So they're the second people. But they were the first, though, to ever do it. So Terry and Steve, you guys, you're great friends, and you've been around the show, and you've helped support us a lot. We also said, hey, could we use your backs? And you helped us actually physically build the whole thing and run it and tear it down. So you were there the whole time. You saw it all. Terry, you did Lamb Stock. You've done Terra Vita. You've done Farm to Fork. You've done all of these big food festivals out here. Give us a grade. Percentage grade in numerical number. Like, are we a 78? Are we 100? Are we 93? Where were we for the first event of 2021?
I would say an A, whatever number that is. I wasn't very good at math.
That was not how the question was framed at all.
What's that?
So a 90? You're giving us a 9? Is it A?
Well, 90 would be an A minus. You're giving us
Yes.
at least like a 94.
A.
94 to a 96
All right.
is an A.
That sounds a little much, but all right. But thank you. But Terry, by the way, his birthday's tomorrow or yesterday. Whenever you hear this, so happy birthday. Yeah, it was a good environment. We had a nice flow. We had crazy amount of champagne. Steven, you were helping run that merch table. Got a little chaotic there for a moment.
Yeah, a little, but it was controlled chaos, I would say. Obviously, I had my guy Terry next to me to help facilitate, and he had his script, his word script that rolled off the tongue to check in everyone and get them some merchandise and all that kind of stuff. So, but no, it was good. It was I enjoyed the fast pace, and a lot of people perform better. I'm air quoting under pressure, and yeah, it all fell into place. So it was good times.
Yeah, it was just nice to just be a part of like the community and actually do something. Be a part of like an event to kind of help kick off and get society together. I mean, we weren't the exact first, but pretty close.
Yeah, and I do want to also add that I wish the good Max could have been on tonight, but I know he's otherwise engaged. And also Kevin from Wine Cellars and Chris from Triangle Wine Company. This event was actually called Bubbles and Brisket. And Max, you were emphatic about putting the bubbles first.
Yeah.
And in fact, there was a lot of bubbles there and a lot of good bubbles, from Prosecco Rosé to Cremant de Loire, Cremant d'Alsace, and then Champagne, this English style of champagne. It's right over the Dover Cliff. So you have that same white chocolate bill like champagne. And I think that when we conceived of this idea and we talked about it, we're like, no, I mean, that should work. That really sounds like it should work. I think I've had it before. I think that was good. But then I don't know about you guys, and maybe some of you can speak to this, Anthony, Kyle, George, Thomas, Stephen, Terry. If you had a chance to actually, go get a bite of brisket, go get a sip of bubbles, and really appreciate how fucking good that pairing was.
And I had a friend of mine, I was asking her if she actually did the pairing, and she said yes. And she actually commented that I forgot what she was drinking, but whatever it was paired well with the Stowe Baked Goods dessert with the sweet potato cupcake.
I'll second that. They were delicious.
Oh, yeah.
I was really impressed because they had like legit champagne. It's like you said, they had the Prosecco, they had Cava, they had all this kind of great stuff. I'm not surprised it was a great pairing because I've been to the Champagne region, and there, they what they call champagne? They call it the king of wines. And maybe they're just marketing, but they say you can, like, champagne is appropriate to drink anytime with any meal or anything. You can never go wrong having champagne. But with that being said, I will say it was just an excellent pairing. I mean,
yeah.
It just really was great.
So what was the one, Matt? What was the most consumed wine?
So it was actually a tie. And I was very surprised. It was not, in fact, the English bubbles or any of the champagnes, because those were high priced. Those were pretty high priced. So, maybe think people were thinking, oh, this is a special occasion. But they weren't the cheapest wines, and it wasn't the Prosecco. It was, in fact, the Cremant d'Alsace from Melanie Feaster, former guest of the NCF&B podcast. Actually, has been in studio. Badass female winemaker, 8th-generation Alsatian winemaker, who basically said, fuck you to the 8. She didn't say fuck you. She just said, fuck you. I respect your 8 generations of male domination winemaking, but I'm going to do things a little bit different and put my name on the label and do it my way. So hers, and then an Austrian sparkling rosé, the Marcus Huber, was a tie. They were the highest in volume purchases.
Well, so people were drinking some swanky stuff that was cool, and that's what I realized in the middle of the whole event. I took time to try to indulge and enjoy it the way I hoped people were enjoying it. And so I grabbed a bunch of the food and then went through and tasted probably 6 or 7 different of the sparkling that were available. They were like 18, so there was a lot. But I went through and tried a few. Always note, if you see a Master Sommelier holding some wines, go to him first, and that's what I did.
Yes.
And so I'm like, what are you pouring? He's like, oh, I got this, and he had the English stuff, and so.
And he had the Marcus Huber Austrian rosé too.
Exactly. So that's a good way to start with what Max was pouring. But I like took a step back and I realized, oh, this is cool. Kind of almost what like Kyle was referring to as far as like things are like, there's a new age, there's a new progression of things. Well, why can't there be some sophistication with this barbecue atmosphere? And we're drinking really, really sophisticated sparkling wine, I'm sorry, that really paired extremely well with this barbecue. So it's like, I look at it like it can be elegant. And I think that's what I felt like in the middle of the day. I was like, oh, this is kind of swanky. Like we got the sultry tones of Tom Anderson billowing over here on the side. The rain hadn't come down yet, but I was like drinking delicious sparkling. And then Butcher's Market's baked beans with the brisket inside, chopped inside. That was delicious and like sweet and savory. And then the pickled relish that I got from Longleaf Swine's salad on the side of Mark Russell's brisket was like the polar opposite in the flavors. And then you try those two champagne or many different champagnes in between, and you're like, oh, I see how this pairs and how this cuts and how this varies. It was cool. Like we did a very cool thing with food and wine.
Who brought those cupcakes?
Desserts?
Hey, they came from our bakery, Anthony. Bestow out in.
Man, they were out of this world.
Oh, thanks, man.
I'll second that. They were delicious.
Mm-hmm.
I went through I got back a little bit after midnight, and someone said they left some. I went through like half a dozen in like 12 seconds.
George basically just had cupcakes.
Didn't get the W.
He had like 4.
That's why I had to leave, because I would have done the same thing.
And Kyle, I will say I got some feedback, and you did provide some gluten-free for my wife and her sister, and I really appreciate that, which were topped with some bacon sprinkles. And there were other people who mentioned wanted to taste the cupcakes with the bacon. Those were only for the gluten-free.
Oh,
so we had two varieties. So yeah, the first the most folks had was the sweet potato, and I don't think we've talked about that. That's basically where the bakery started, man. My wife's grandmother is from Clinton, and she's like this old school, like Southern baker, no real recipe, man. Just, a pinch of this, a dash of that. And, we took those flavors, man, and put them into a cupcake. So we actually like roast like a local, like a Jewel sweet potato, which is already pretty high in sugar. And then when you roast it, the sugar is caramelized. And then we just kick it in with like some good fall spices, man. So Saigon cinnamon, brown sugar, some ginger, some clove. And then it's just like a cream cheese icing, man, and that's that's literally the backbone of the cake business. Like it's a mandatory thing in all of the tasting boxes we do for brides, and everybody goes like, oh man, I don't want a vegetable in my cake, and we're like, nah, you want to try this, and to this day, man, it's like 90% of our weddings are that sweet potato cupcake. The other was a breakfast cupcake, so it's available in both like a gluten-free and traditional, but it's like a French toast cake. It's a maple buttercream and then just bacon. And yeah, I think, I just called the bakery last minute. It's like, hey, give me like a dozen of whatever gluten-free thing is there. And that happened to be the thing that day. So I'm glad you guys got to try it. It was a good time.
Well, it's a good segue because I just wanted to talk about like the guest attendees and like the amount of people that came and that even stayed through the bad weather, and many of which were, like we all have our own like friend groups and all. And I got my Y Guides dads to bring a few of the kids, and I was laughing because there were a good group of like kids ranging from like 8 to 11 because of my daughter's ages, and one of them brought a kid's tasting menu to like grade everybody's food. This was unsanctioned. She did this on her own, and she brought it up. And she's like, okay, her dad had like written out all of the people that were going to be there in advance. And then she put stars, and she would fill in the stars for how good she liked something. I will announce here, Zoe, which I told her blog needs to be called Zoeats.
Sure, for sure.
From this point forward, announced the winner of all the food from her mouth to the page, Kyle Sutton, my friends. And I was wondering if that had anything to do with the fact that he had an entire second table next to him filled with cupcakes.
I mean, you almost can't lose, man. You give a small child really good mac and cheese and then give them cupcakes, you're going to get the kid vote. That's what it is.
Yeah. She also said this was the first time in her life she had ever attempted to try mac and cheese. And I looked at her dad and I went, wait a minute, Zoe's never had your mac and cheese? He's like, oh no, it's on the table. She's just elected not to try it. But for some reason, she came to Bubbles and Brisket. Kyle's mac and cheese was right there. And at 11 years old, she's like, I'm going to try this for the first time. Boom. And you got a new fan.
I mean, she kind of set the bar high, man. It's very much an adult mac and cheese, man. It's a 3-year-old cheddar. And then the ratio by weight of cheddar to noodles is 3-to-1. It's mostly freaking cheese. No other mac and cheese is you're not gonna get that in the blue box. This is not a thing. So got.
That's my type of mac and cheese, man.
We'll take a quick break from our post-game show to actually have a few interviews that were done in person that actually didn't sound too bad. So the first of which is with James Johnson of Skippers, and then we speak with Mark Russell of Longleaf Swine, and finished with Carrie Schleifer of Alley 26. But first, a little bit more live music from George Hage.
I say, run, put your axe away. You'll be running for your shovel till the end of days. I say, run, put your axe away. You'll be running from the devil till the end of days.
The whole idea of doing the Bubbles and Brisket event came from a series of conversations we had with many different chefs and purveyors over the last year and a half about brisket. We always talk about pork and barbecue as a noun and verb in North Carolina, but brisket has made a presence in this country, in the state, a real presence, especially because there are so many new people doing barbecue in the last year and a half. One of those guys that's been doing a lot of things for a long time, and one of the first people we met in North Carolina when we moved here is this beautiful man with his long smoky beard, James Johnson. You've been a chef in many places. You worked for Ashley Christensen. Maybe somebody's heard of her.
Who?
You did chicken wire events, which were fantastic. And then you did some great lamb stock events too. So
yeah, but before James, you even speak, I want it to be known, and the man deserves his due credit, because for us, he will be now known as Chef Inspiration, because he put Chefspiration. He basically made us write the check that our mouths were trying to cash.
Exactly. We've been talking about this event for a year and a half. Finally, James said, "Just come do this event at my place."
Yeah.
And then we logistically couldn't make it happen at his place. So now we're doing it here at V Pizza. That's how that goes. And we love Anthony, and he's awesome. So, James, what did you prepare for everybody tonight?
So we do a little Central Texas, just salt, pepper, smoke, and then we got a house coleslaw that we do. It's got a nice little touch of celery on it. It helps cut through the fattiness of the brisket.
What makes it a Texas style?
It's Central Texas. So
Central Texas. What makes it Central Texas?
That's really just simple, straightforward smoke, salt and pepper. Don't get in your way. Just.
I like it. And what's the difference in the slaw? Because people do mayo slaw and vinegar slaw. Is there like a blend in there?
So we're a blend.
It's
definitely a vinegar, a little mayo, a little sweet, a little sour, finely chopped, a little Sam Jones kind of vibe.
Oh.
And,
he threw a little celery in there too, which was the clutch component.
Yeah.
A little celery goes a long way. So.
I heard a lot of good mentions about the slaw, so kudos on the slaw.
And so you're at Skipper's, which is in Apex, right? And you were doing, it's Skipper's Seafood and Smokehouse, but it was Skipper's Seafood, really, for the longest time.
15 years, yeah.
And how long?
For 15 years, yeah.
And so you brought the barbecue. You brought the smoking.
Bringing the smoke. Yeah.
So, from what I understand, it was you were just doing the smoke. You were just doing barbecue on like 1 or 2 days a week, and then, but because you did such a good job, now you're doing it all the time. Is that right?
It caught on. Now we're doing it 7 days a week. All offerings.
You hear that, everybody? You can go get this beautiful brisket coleslaw 7 days a week over at Skipper's Seafood and Smokehouse. Well, James, you're the man. Thank you for making us do this, and thank you for putting our butts to the fire. What's the expression I'm looking for here? I don't know. We finally wrote the check that our mouths couldn't cash. I guess that's
it. We cashed in.
Hey. Yeah. All right. Let's move on to Mark Russell of Longleaf Swine with the competitive Texas barbecue here. Step on up on stage here. Mr. Russell, Mr. Mark Russell of Longleaf Swine. We had you on the podcast a long time ago, and it seemed like forever since you opened, but you're finally open now at Longleaf Swine.
That is incorrect.
Not yet. We're going through renovations right now, and we will be opening up towards the end of the year.
Well, I meant you're open here today. This is your, soft grand opening.
Yes, this is our soft grand opening. one of very many. But yeah, we are doing pop-ups at Standard Beer and Food on Sundays and Mondays, slinging pulled pork sandwiches, cheeseburgers, smoked chicken wings, all that kind of fun stuff.
Oh, you can't. That was part of your contract. You can't talk about pork here. I'm sorry. Yeah, don't talk about pork. Cheeseburgers are fine. Yeah, especially if there's brisket in the grind.
We got cheeseburgers. Okay.
Well, so one thing to note was back in the time when we interviewed you, which was in August of 2019, we were anticipating the Longleaf Swine Barbecue was going to open in Transfer Co.
Yeah.
Things have changed, much like all of life in society. Everything changed, and so for whatever reason, which we don't need to go into, you guys aren't going to be in Transfer Co. anymore. In fact, you have your own brick and mortar.
Yes.
Maybe just a mile away, not even a mile, probably 8 blocks away at the old Oakwood Cafe
building. Yep.
Yeah, right next door to Gringo at Gogh or across the street, if you know where that is. You are in the throes of remodel right now.
Yes, so we just got our bids back, and so we're going to start renovations here soon, and we should be opening up around the end of the year.
I heard that.
Yeah.
Permits are great.
They're fun.
So fun.
Oh, yeah.
I think we might have gotten our permit. I think we just got our permit. I'm looking at my partner, Kip, over here from Crafton.
He gave you the thumbs up. Congratulations.
We just got the permit for us to start building, too. So starting on Monday, Crafton will be actually getting built, which is great.
All right. Well, so people got a little preview. What did you prepare here today?
So we made a 16-hour smoked brisket. Same way that James did, Central Texas style, salt, pepper, smoke. And then I also prepared a cucumber salad. It's pretty acid forward, just to kind of cut all the fat and everything that's in the brisket. Just super fun, summertime, delicious food.
It's delicious, man. I like that you brought something kind of light and easy because it's going to be a hot, muggy day today.
Yes.
We are anticipating rain, although so far Mother Nature has not done so. But it didn't stop us from putting 17 tents up to keep it dry.
Hell no. That was a great time.
Anyhow, thank you so much, man.
Thanks, Mark.
When we see you open, close to the end of the year or so, then we'll all have to get out there to Longleaf Swine Barbecue.
Awesome.
Thank you for coming to downtown.
We might have to do another event with you just to bring the esquites because I hear they're off the chain.
Yes, I'll do the esquites next time when it's not 95 degrees outside.
Fair enough.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Mark. Oh, yeah. Walk-up music and everything.
Oh, public speaking. Carrie Schleifer, here we go.
Like milkshake or something.
Are you kidding me? Here, stand here.
Carrie's milkshake does bring all the boys to the yard. And it's a euphemism for her actual Jewish grandmother's brisket.
It was actually my grandfather's recipe. I'm sorry. It was it was based off of my grandfather's recipe, but I don't think she'd mind, saying it was hers.
Her too. Hashtag her too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're both gone now, but they were very good people.
Nice.
And they made good food.
Well, all I know is Matt Weiss basically was just trying to get someone to agree to make the brisket that was so close to his family's upbringing. So he's like, I gotta get somebody to do this. Let me go call that Jersey girl.
Yeah, I pretty much got a phone call and he's like, so we're doing this brisket thing and I don't know, maybe you can do it Jewish style.
You led the witness, Matt.
I was like, okay, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
So here we are.
We had to have a different representation of brisket from all over. We got Texas covered. We got North Carolina covered. We have to have the old country.
We got Puerto Rico covered. Yeah,
Jersey via Florida.
So in doing this, you're the only one that I think didn't add smoke to it, right? You did this in a conventional oven.
I did.
old school, like you could do this at home.
Yes. Oh yeah.
And not
I'm
like
happy
go
to give
nuts.
out the recipe to anyone that wants it.
Yeah, and
well, you seared it off first.
Yes.
And then you put it in the oven and roasted it, right?
I seared it and cooked it with all the vegetables, and it's a tomato-based sauce. Some people use French onion soup as a base. I did tomato because I like it better, and then
and you cook it in that.
You cook it in that, yeah.
How long's the cook?
This took about 4 hours.
Oh, that's not bad.
No.
Most of the time you throw some brisket on, if you're going to smoke it, it's like, I'll see you tomorrow.
Right.
Well, I was braising it, but I'm also cooking it in a commercial convection oven, so
Yeah,
it's not
and
the
you
same as your house.
Also have some work to do because you're running a restaurant.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I mean, I have people for that, but...
Well, never mind then.
Baller running a
over
restaurant, that's a subtext to cooking a brisket.
Yeah. You just put it on the side and let it do itself. Yeah.
I do appreciate, just for those who have had a Jewish style brisket before, the French onion soup. That's what my mom would make. Actually, that's very traditional. But the tomato base is pretty awesome, and you just cook it in that, and then it flavors the whole thing, keeps it, for my wife's favorite word, moist and juicy. And
Moist and juicy.
And we didn't even mention, but Chef Carrie Schleifer over here of Alley 26, if you guys find yourself in Durham, it's great cocktails and great food.
Even once had an NC F&B cocktail on their menu, which is pretty awesome.
When's that coming back?
Talk to the bold guy.
It put a tear in my eye when I saw it. So
Shannon,
thank you.
you're listening.
He will be.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. Get back. You need to keep slinging. Oh, and also, we got all the Alley 26 tonic over here. We have yet to put any of that tonic into some champagne, but maybe we can make that happen.
Yeah,
if anybody wants to try some Alley 26 tonic with some bubbles, just go crazy. You can make it happen.
Just grab some bubbles and bring it over to a table, and we can mix it up for you.
Heck yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
And Cam, try the brisket. Enough with the cupcakes.
'Cause I know you understand love is a verb. It ain't just the things we do.
Thank you.
All that we do, so that makes our love so real. And day after day, I will do the things that say just how much I care about you.
We had a pretty good turnout though. Pretty much everyone showed up within the first, I'd say, half hour, and it immediately just was packed. Like we started at 2:00, and by 2:30 there was, I don't know, 120 to 150 people, and then I think at capacity we were at 175. Let's just give or take. And
say if there was a manifest there, it would be 175 souls.
Yeah, so that was cool.
I just wanted it to be known, it wasn't just a rain. It wasn't just weather. It was a torrential downpour.
Oh, yeah.
Anthony, I have a question for you. I mean, this was your spot. You started to have some things on the patio, but, I said this to Max the other day. We wanted to work with you. We wanted to do something with you, and it seemed convenient. But then when we got there and you had the natural stage with, the retention wall there, and that beautiful, I guess it's an oak tree, I'm assuming, that is over the whole parking lot, that provides shade and just this beautiful arena. Like, it's beautiful there. It's really pretty. And I just wanted to, have you done events in the parking lot before, and have they been as beautiful as this one?
Man, so nothing has been as beautiful. I was thinking the same thing, man. Just those pictures that we got were just really nice. Especially with like that tree is kind of almost a focal point to kind of have everything was set up around it. We've done a couple events recently since we got the food truck up and running in our parking lot, just to kind of get people talking, which has been cool. And we've got a couple more things planned, but yeah, man, just the vision that you guys had. And then when I saw, early in the morning, and you guys and your family and, and your friends are pitching those tents, it's like, man, this thing is actually going to be pretty legit. So watching you guys kind of turn the space over that quick, I mean, it was definitely better than we thought it was going to be. It was awesome.
We were like, oh, this looks actually kind of cool. Matt and I were like more impressed with ourselves that we even thought that we could do that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, kudos to Max for thinking about, no, we're just going to tent everything. And then kudos to Chef James Johnson's wife, Carly.
Oh, man. She was clutch.
Putting up the beautiful balloons that looked perfect. So when you walked up, you saw the big NC F&B balloons.
Yeah, but she like organized the merch. She like got like trash taken out. Like she was just on fire doing things, and then like brought all the tents down at the end and organized the poles, like everything.
Oh, Carly was phenomenal, man. She's
the hardest working person there. She's crazy. Maybe next.
Oh yeah, she was even.
She saw me in the weeds, man. Just jumped in and started plating brisket mac, man. Restocking cupcake. Like there was at peak, man. I would have drowned. There was no coming back, and she saved my bacon. I'm serious. Actually, I owe her a pan of mac and cheese. Now I have to. It's a debt I have to repay because she did me a solid. So yeah.
Well, now it's on record. So.
Oh, she knows. We discussed it. It's already done. It's happening.
Yeah. I think it's a must that Carly will be at every NCF&B event.
No doubt. Well, look, guys, everybody, thank you for joining us. It begs the question that now we got to do this again. Maybe we do Bubbles and Brisket 2022, and if we're going to do that, no offense to Anthony, unless you want to like help us get a bigger tent and take over the entire space. But all I'm saying is maybe we got to look for like a new, bigger venue and do this thing on a larger scale.
I think I know a new place that's opening with a bigger patio. So.
A different side of town, maybe, right?
That's
yeah, maybe a different side of town.
There's
Who knows?
Places out there.
Or we might just have to come up with a new event to open up the Briar Creek Feed.
That's a good idea too.
There you go. Look for that soon. This was really cool to get everybody out here. I just want to say thank you to everybody that was here. Matt, you got anything else before we get out of here?
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Thank you, chefs. Thank you, musicians. Max, well done on your end. And I just want to say that everybody come to the next North Carolina Food and Bev event, or come to Bubbles and Brisket 2022. Get your tickets soon when they're available. You will eat and drink extremely merrily.
Thanks for listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. Special thanks to the musicians that came out and performed. On Instagram, check out George Hage or Jack the Radio Music, that's George's band. And we'll close out today's episode with a song from Thomas Anderson entitled Would I. You can find any of his music on Spotify under Thomas Anderson or go to thomasanderson.com.
If you didn't have your mobile phone, now I wonder what you would do. Would you be so bored and alone you might talk to the person next to you? Would you? What would you do? If we didn't have our eyes on a screen, I wonder what we might see. Would we be amazed at the scene? There's a whole world in 3D. What would we see? I could live my whole life with pixelated blinders on. I could set it up to see only what I want to see. I can share all my thoughts, show the world my photographs. But in the end I know my profile isn't me. It's not me. And it's no excuse for reality. Oh no. If I wasn't searching the net, I wonder what I might find. Would I find what I haven't yet, like a wondrous piece of